and welcome back to another episode of the Kate Hamilton Health Podcast. So in today's episode, I chat with Julianne Meade. Julianne is a registered nurse, clinical pain specialist, and the founder of Barbells and Babies, a wellness brand supporting women through postnatal recovery and beyond. With over a decade of experience in nursing and pain management, Julianne combines medical insight with lived experience to help women rebuild their strength mentality, physically and emotionally. She specialises in holistic yet evidence-based one-to-one coaching tailored to each woman's medical history, lifestyle and personal goals. She's also the host of her own podcast as well and has appeared on multiple wellness and lifestyle shows. Julianne brings a grounded, medically informed and deeply empathetic voice to women's health and is passionate about closing the gap between what women need and what traditional systems offer. So we have the most amazing conversation. We kind of start backwards from the stage of life where I'm at, nearing 40. It's been a good few years since I've had my last child, and the postpartum issues and pelvic health issues that I'm still struggling with. And I know a lot of women my age are. So we kind of start there. We talk about lifestyle and, what we can do at home to improve any symptoms we're experiencing. We work back a little bit then and talk about training, how we should train at this stage of life. We move back and we talk about actual postpartum care, as in, this bridge that needs to be created between what we receive medically and what we need recovery-wise and training-wise in the weeks and months that follow after having a baby. So we spend a lot of time talking around that. And we also talk a good bit about pregnancy as well. And, the do's and don'ts when it comes to pregnancy training. This is just an all-around amazing conversation around female health and female strength. And it's extremely empowering. We talk a lot about parenthood as well. And, the importance of finding a routine, an exercise routine and a social life that works for you. We talk a lot around caring for yourself as well as being a mother. It's just been an absolutely amazing conversation. I've loved every minute of it and I cannot wait to share it with you. Julianne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much for having me today.
For anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of what's led you to do what you're doing right now?
Yeah, of course. First and foremost, thank you again for having me on. I'm actually a huge fan of your podcast. After listening to it, I'm like, I love it. I am Julianne. I am the founder of Barbells and Babies, a pre and postnatal coaching service for women. And I've been working in that now the last 3 years. I suppose a little bit of my background journey is that I was previously a general nurse. I still am. And I worked in orthopedic trauma areas, surgical areas. And it wasn't until I became pregnant with my son, Jackson, that I realised the gap in support, not just in the pregnancy stage, especially when you're focused on exercise and nutrition and I suppose your healthy lifestyle, but postpartum, the support just was not there. And I found it really difficult to navigate returning to exercise, returning to a routine of lifestyle that actually helped me feel like me again. Because I think parts of that get lost during your pregnancy and even postpartum. Your medical appointments are very much focused on baby health, and postpartum stage that becomes even more evident. It's like, what is the baby doing? And if the baby is doing well, then you must be doing well. So that really led me to focus on pre and postnatal. Initially, I started posting on Instagram, sharing my own story as to I had done the pre and postnatal training after I completed my pain management postgrad. And I was doing the training purely for myself because I felt this is something that I want to know more about. I want to have a greater knowledge base on this part of life, this part of motherhood. And then as I got more into it, I realised, God, the support really just is not out there for mums. So I started coaching. And from there, it has really spiraled, I suppose, is the word. The coaching program has gone from strength to strength, and I continue coaching pre and postnatal to this day. And it's one of my favorite areas to work with, especially new mums in the postpartum stage.
And do you work with people in person or online?
So I am fully online. I really have been since day one. I do and I am hosting masterclasses and workshops in person because now that we can. I suppose when I started my business, it was still in COVID. So online suited, and online still suits mums really well, especially in the capacity that I work with them in. So from a point of view of not just looking at the exercise, but the full lifestyle wellness area, like online, you can deliver a lot more effectively on each aspect rather than coming into a gym for one session and leaving. It's more supportive, I feel.
No, this is fantastic because like I've spoken with different people about this topic, like, before. So I've talked a good bit about my journey in relation to kind of postpartum, like, but I know that when I had my older two now, I was much younger. I wasn't really into fitness. I was in my 20s and kind of, when you kind of just feel like you're in your 20s, whatever. But it turns out you don't, okay? But it just hits you when you're 40. And I remember a midwife saying to me, do those pelvic floor muscle exercises or, you'll regret it when you're 40. I'm 40 next year. I regret it. Yeah, I do. I regret it. But my third child, I had gotten into fitness. Now, like not as a coach yet at that stage. He's now 7.5. He's nearly 8. So I gotten into fitness personally. And then I got pregnant and I was like, this is going to be my fit pregnancy. But you know what it was? I didn't have a plan or a structure for that pregnancy. And I'm very much someone who like, particularly back then, I needed just a plan to follow, someone to be accountable to, and that structure in place, which is exactly what you offer. And then after postpartum, like that part where you say, like, you just really want yourself back. Like I can resonate with that so much because I was so in a rush to get back to where I was before. Like, obviously I loved my baby and I loved, and I was busy being a mother, but I was like, there was that section that was for me, which was my fitness, and I wanted it back, and I wanted to get back doing the things I was doing like right away. Like at 6 weeks, I was like, I want to be back, doing exactly what I was doing before. And I had no education around there was no one available to me to tell me what, and like for context, we're talking 2017. There was no one there to tell me this is what you need to do, but I know it might feel easy, but it's going to lead to this. You know what I mean? And so that I knew that there was a bigger plan in place that was going to get me stronger and fitter, but I needed to do this part. So I just went back training hard. So now my pelvic floor is absolutely fecked. Like it's fecked. I'm yet to go to a pelvic health physio. Now I know anyone listening to this podcast regularly would be like, Kate, you're talking about it nonstop for the past year. I still haven't done it now, which is quite hard to find a pelvic health physio in Ireland, first of all. But I haven't even looked because I'm busy excuses. I do need to. But I've kind of hadn't really noticed the past year or two. But I've gone back to CrossFit, and I've noticed, or actually when I got running there during the year, and as I'm getting a little bit older, what was tighter is getting looser now, and so leakage is like becoming a problem when it comes to like skipping, jumping, running. It's all because of that lack of postnatal structured training that I missed out on.
Yeah, you've actually touched on so many things there that I literally hear all the time, and it is that rush to get back as quick as possible. It's that rush to rehab really quickly. And then it's also that part where a lot of females feel this is too easy. I need to just get back to what I was doing as quick as possible, rush into it. And then it's the long-term effects. And the core and pelvic floor kind of go hand in hand. And a lot of people, I suppose, mistake pelvic floor exercises for exercises you do lying down on a mat, that it's more Pilates focused. And just when you mentioned pelvic health physio, we actually have a pelvic health physio that works with myself, Chloe, and she is fantastic at even explaining how to connect your pelvic floor, because there's so many different ways you hear like squeeze and pulse and contract, and some things just don't really resonate with you in that stage. But Chloe is fantastic at what she does as well. And like her input, even from my point of view with clients, makes a huge difference. And like you will see nowadays, there is more emphasis put on rehab for core and pelvic floor. I suppose from my point of view, what I do look at is that it's functional, that it's functional impact and movement. Because just like you said, a lot of the ladies that I work with are previously working out quite hard, or they were in a really good place pre-pregnancy. Pregnancy, it might have dropped off, and then they want to get back. They want to get back doing what they like to do, whether that's at home based on the amount of time they have, or in the gym space. It's returning to that impact level. And that's the hardest part, because your pelvic floor won't show up the discrepancies until you build more and more impact. So it's a humbling place to start with lower impact on the pelvic floor and core, working on that stability side of things first to then build up. But it's so, so important that, just like you said, the leakage is something I hear about all the time. Ladies returning to Gaelic football, big emphasis on the shift in direction, not just running, jumping, but even the slight shift in your posture. The muscle tone has to be there and the endurance on it. So even with CrossFit, you're going to notice it massively when you increase weights, when you're doing definitely more like calisthenic type moves for yourself, you will notice that the tone can just release at times. And it is focusing on that first and foremost does make a huge difference within your exercise pattern postpartum.
Yeah. And it's amazing how normalized it is among women my age. Like, because I was quite open on my stories about, like I went for a run. I was training for a 10K and I went for the run. And then like I literally was almost home and I was like, my trousers were saturated. And I mean, like, I think some of the younger girls, like people were like, did you have like a big gush? I was like, no, it's literally just every impact is like leak, 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 leak. Every step I'm taking is just leak, 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 leak. And then so I was like, oh my God. And so I put this on my stories and it was amazing. And people are so helpful. And, people were just like, oh my God, I'm the exact same. Or, and then people were giving advice to like, you need to wear 2 pads, or Pennies have these knickers that you can wear that are absorbent and you can run in. And for a minute I was like, oh my God, I need to go get them. And then I was like, I shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to settle for putting on a nappy to go for a run.
Yeah. Honestly, that's something that, like, especially girls that return to GAA or are in GAA, I ask them that all the time. I'm like, do you wear a pad during your matches? And that would be something that I ask routinely in consultations, or women that are running long distances, because they won't actually share that with me unless I ask. It's not really talked about enough. And then when I do ask, they're like, yeah, I always wear a pad just because I still experience that little bit of leakage. And it's not normal, but it does happen. And you definitely can improve it. It's like any other muscle. You train it, you tone it, you build it for endurance, and it really does need the impact side of things. But yeah, when you say every step, run, like,
impact, yeah. But I was going to be like, let's take it right back to pregnancy and work our way through. But I think since we're talking about more, my age, maybe we'll just kind of continue down this road. So kind of, I suppose, what I want to know for like the older ladies that, have had their kids. I say, sorry, please don't be insulted anyone, older ladies like me. But any of us who've had our kids or are a good few years postpartum.
Yeah.
Or anyone kind of, 35 plus, I suppose, in general talking about. And if anyone's listening and they're in a similar position to me, and then me as well, just actually selfishly want to know, what should we do now, years later, after we've had our kids, after we haven't done the rehab, after we've got back training or not, and we're just like, you know what, I've got issues going on. What can I actively do to make this a bit better?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because it's just like any other muscle. Postpartum is the stage where you feel, I suppose, the biggest effect on it, that it's stretched, it's relaxed, and then it has to come back. If the tone isn't there at postpartum or in 10 years' time, it's the exact same. You have to work that muscle. So one of the greatest areas that you can start, and something that sounds very boring on my stories a lot that I speak about, is core stability. But your core stability is equally targeting your deep core and your pelvic floor. So your pelvic floor is just that sling underneath your core branch. And what you want to do is tighten the core to pull up the rest of the sling, to keep it tight and build that endurance. So when you're back training, just like you are now, it mightn't be something that you're routinely including in your sessions. You're not routinely thinking of the prompts, that even though you're contracting your core, you're not actually working at tightening up the muscle. So first and foremost, what you can do is focus on relaxing and contracting together on your pelvic floor. They can be really easy maneuvers, but from a functional point of view, and especially when you're already training, the easiest place to implement that is on your lower body days, your glute-based workouts, your anything related to your lumbopelvic region, and work on getting that connection in again, where you pull up the pelvic floor, where you squeeze and hold when you exhale. And the more you do this, then the longer you can hold on the exhale. You can practice different holds on the pelvic floor, because just like a muscle, you might train for hypertrophy, you might train for prolonged resistance, endurance on a muscle. That's what you want to do with the pelvic floor as well. So you can have your different holds. Like for ladies that are new to starting pelvic floor exercises, what I would say is focus on the breath work first, and on the exhale, as you breathe out, you just pulse the pelvic floor up. You will notice it more when you learn to relax it. And that could be equally a problem that is for yourself or for older females that maybe didn't rehab the pelvic floor, that it's actually the muscle is too tight and it stays too tight. And then when you introduce impact exercises, you experience leak, because the muscle tone is so focused on holding all the time that it can have almost like a spasm wobble, and then you experience the leakage. So pelvic floor physio would have a greater look at that, in the sense that she will do an internal exam if you're comfortable with that. But I think most women that have had babies will be comfortable with that. We've seen it all before, like at this stage. So they will do an internal exam and get you to squeeze during the exam to see, is it actually that the muscle is too tight and having that wobble, or is it that the tone of the muscle just isn't there at all? And then that will direct a little bit more where you need to focus the exercise side of things.
Okay. So yeah, end of the day, the pelvic health physio. I need to
there.
I need to go to the pelvic health physio. So if I'm sitting in a chair here, I'm lying on my back and I'm doing breath work, let's say, before, if someone is new to this and they're new to training, let's say, so if we're talking about someone who hasn't trained in a long time. So when I'm breathing in, I'm letting my pelvic floor drop down.
Yes.
And then as I exhale,
yes.
So my pelvic floor goes with my diaphragm, basically, is it?
Yes. It's all connected to your diaphragmatic breathing. So if you're focusing on tightening up your core, you'll find that as you inhale, you relax the abdomen. The abdomen goes out, and the pelvic floor will actually naturally drop as you focus on pushing the air into your belly, because there's not the room for your pelvic floor sling to essentially stay upright, up nice and tight. So then as you breathe out and you exhale, you're targeting the sides of your abdomen, your obliques. You're pulling that in and you're squeezing up the pelvic floor. Essentially, what you want to do is bring any air that is left in your tummy as you breathe out right towards the belly button. So everything just pulls into the center. And then you can practice your longer holds. But something that is really good if you want to feel it contract and relax is even sitting facing the back of a chair and straddle the chair essentially. And you'll find that you'll relax your pelvic floor a lot more in that position. Even just breathing in and out, you can find it relax a lot quicker. And then you can focus on pulling up. But if you don't know how to relax it, or you don't even know what that feels like, that maneuver can help you a lot.
Okay, that's really helpful. That's really, really practical. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast for a moment to talk to you a little bit about Kate Hamilton Health online coaching. So we have 2 coaching options available. We have our elite coaching and we have our group coaching service. Our elite coaching service is bespoke, individualized coaching, which will help you to finally break free from diet culture with one-to-one anytime support from your coach and with access to a safe, supportive community. This is a higher ticket coaching option and the coaching is by application only. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will be able to apply for elite coaching through there and we will be in touch to organize a call and to get you up and running. In relation to our group coaching starts on the first Monday of every month. When it's full each month, we do close the doors. With the group coaching is about building the habits, body and energy of the healthiest version of yourself and finally make it stick. We include personalized calories and portions, food lists, recipes, meal plan ideas, step goals, home or gym-based workouts, depending on what you want, changed every 8 weeks. Mindset work, app access. So that's the Kate Hamilton Health app, which will be your hub for everything. Weekly yoga classes, WhatsApp group community, weekly group Q&A with myself, fun challenges, daily habits form, weekly self-check-in, fortnightly check-ins with your coach, a library full of lifestyle guides, a library full of lessons, seminars, and all of this is updated regularly. We have weekly group Zoom calls with myself and the team, regular guest seminars where we get experts on to talk more to you about different topics that we need experts on for. And then we have in-person events twice a year that you will get at a major discount as being a member of the Kate Hamilton Health community. So, as I said, this starts the first Monday of every month. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will see when the next group coaching intake is starting for you. So we close the doors as soon as that intake is full or the Monday before the group coaching starts. So usually that last Monday of the previous month. So if you head over to katehamiltonhealth.com, all of that information that I've talked through is on the website. You'll be able to book your spot for the next intake there. And I will chat to you all then. And something we should try and do, like if we're new to this, every day, just do maybe like 3, are we talking sets and reps? Do 3 sets of how many reps?
It can be like sets and reps. With my client base, I tend to focus on it being functional. So for a lot of postnatal mommies, I will say when you're feeding bottles or when you're breastfeeding, that's your time to try. Even when you get out of the shower is another time for yourself to focus on your breath work, even in the mirror. So you can see where you're tightening your core and where you're relaxing. And another position that can help is a pelvic tilt on your bum, basically, is how I describe it. So this is on my grid and you'll see it. It's something that I'd use for pain clients for lumbopelvic pain as well. You basically tilt your pelvis back in a standing position that you tuck it underneath your ribs. And what you'll find is as you breathe out, tuck it in, and you can draw up the pelvic floor doing that as well. So that sort of prompt is something that I use for women out of the shower, boiling the kettle for a cup of tea. Postpartum, that's about 50 times a day because you'll forget you boiled it. So the numbers add up. What's similar to yourself, Kate, what you shared even this week, I seen you were on about one habit at a time. And postnatally, I think the focus still needs to be on that because you have and especially any stage in motherhood, really, you have so many things you're juggling in your mind that if you're trying to focus on pelvic floor, core stability, you're adding in maybe an extra session for this, your gym sessions, your nutrition, your overall lifestyle, your sleep. When you focus on everything all at once, it just seems like way too much. So it's just breaking it down into small little habits.
Yeah.
And that's an area that with the pelvic floor, I would focus on doing the small routine daily habits, because you're going to get it in more often than if I put it in a workout. Chances are that will be skipped to go straight to, let's just get into my dumbbells, let's just get into the gym session before you do that area.
Yeah, no, I think it's like literally habit stacking. Do it with something that you're already doing, and then it's just an easier way to remember it. Now, that's such a great idea. In relation then, again, if we're still talking about this years later, post kids, and we're training, if we're lifting weights. So like what I've learned is that I learned how to lift heavy weights from a man. And we're not anti-men, but I was very much told to like hold my breath and push up out of a squat, or pull up out of like push your legs against a deadlift. You know what I mean? That it was that hold and brace, and so that probably didn't help either.
So yeah, that's actually a huge thing that even in pregnancy I read a lot of research on, because during pregnancy I was lifting quite heavy, and I was into CrossFit as well at that stage, and I was loving the impact exercise. But a huge part of that is developing abdominal pressure. And that's through what's known as the Valsalva. So it's creating as much deep pressure as you learn from a man, hold your breath, and then you're really driving the force in from the feet up. But during pregnancy, that maneuver of breathwork actually isn't appropriate, because you're creating more abdominal pressure around an area that already has enough pressure going on. You don't need to be holding your breath. So when you're in even the postpartum stage, the huge focus of mine is breath work, because I feel like so many females just hold their breath. Yeah. And for your core work, you're not getting that in there. You're not developing your core by simply holding. Yes, you're developing strength, but you need to breathe. You need to, every exhale is when you pull up your pelvic floor. Like,
it's so interesting. It's like, like I just think, even though I know that I should be breathing out of it, like a heavy lift, I still do. It's like, when you learn how to drive a certain way and then you can't undo it. I still do. But even if we're not talking about squats or deadlifts or whatever, like we're talking about core, if I'm holding a plank or whatever, like, and we all tend to do it. We hold our breath, but as it gets hard, it's like, you're like, remember to, or even like, if you're working with a coach and the coach is like, remember to breathe. You're kind of not really thinking about it as deep breathing, because like when I do yoga, or if I actually just do breath work as an exercise in itself, and I'd be quite good because I'm quite a mindful person. Like I will do a few minutes yoga every morning, more just because so I'm not too old and stiff, basically. But when I do, so like I'm very conscious of my breath, and I do and I do a lot of deep breathing, and it kind of keeps me calm and focused.
Yeah.
But I don't do it in my training.
Yes. And that's the hugest habit to break. Like it's like everything, when, just like you said, when you've learned to drive a certain way, you have to keep retraining yourself how not to do it. So even I know some of my clients laugh at my videos and even the live classes, because I will be there during the exercise, like exhale and doing it very purposely, that they then learn to do it that way. So that's always been a cue for me and for my clients, that that's the way you learn how to train it. And it is like anything, you just have to be so consistent with it. Mm-hmm. So even instructions on movements with myself and weights, it all revolves around inhale, exhale. You inhale on the way down, you exhale on the challenging portion. And the more you hear that and the more you do it, it will consistently become a habit for you. But like that, it takes time. So you obviously have the base there, even from yoga. that you can do it. You have the base there from your guided breath work. It's just slowing down in your sessions to do it. And now that's easier said than done, the CrossFit session.
Yeah, I know. I still train, like I would still strength train as well. I'm just doing a couple of classes a week, CrossFit wise. But it's amazing, like, you know, like when we're strength training, and, you know, and I'd always be saying to my clients, it is about slowing down the movement. It is about, you know, being intentional. And like, let's be using squat as an example, you know, that we're going down slowly, like slow and controlled. We don't, it's not, we're not using momentum. We're going down slow and controlled, and then up strong afterwards. And we're using that mind muscle connection, like, you know, so you're very much like, what muscles am I working? Really concentrate on those muscles during the movement.
Yeah.
So it's really, instead of just being mind muscle, it's really mind muscle breath, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. Like, I think if you get the breath work right as you inhale, just take a squat, for example, there, as you inhale coming down, essentially what you're doing to connect the breath work to it is that you drive the breath to that area. So if you imagine you're doing a squat, you're inhaling as you come down into your squat, you're pausing at the bottom, and you're intentionally driving up. You want every ounce of force at the bottom of that squat. So an exhale is naturally going to contribute a little bit more to that. Now, there is a little bit of a gray area there during pregnancy. And I suppose that's an area where females can really struggle as well. When you're already involved in strength training, your breath work has to change slightly, that you're more focused on continuous breath work and rather not this.
No holds. Yeah.
Yeah, not that hold, not that explosive exhale out, but that it's more regular routine. And I love that you stress the intentional training, that it is developing that connection, because it's so difficult for females, I feel, especially when you've been in a fitness class base, high intensity circuits. That's what you like. That's what you like to train. It's very difficult to get out of that mindset around, I want you to do 6 reps, but I want you to pause them. And I want you to move down into that slowly and pause and take 2 to 3 seconds coming back up. That can be so difficult. So I think that's great that you do that as well. Like,
I think it's really important as well to find what you like, what you enjoy and what works for you. So like with a program, let's say, you know, the way there's some coaches out there and they're like, you need to be sticking with the same program for 6 months to a year. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get that. You're going to look like a bodybuilder. It'll be amazing. I can't live like that. I just can't. And I've tried. So what I'm always doing is kind of navigating what works for me in that space and time in my life. So what I've found now is working well is, so I was training, I was doing 2 upper, 2 lower in the gym, slow, intentional, really, you know, like really getting strong, like, you know, getting in really good shape. And I enjoyed it to a certain degree, right? And then I got to the stage where I was like, I felt sluggish going to the gym. I felt sluggish coming out of the gym. I had taken up a bit of running. So I did running. I did the 10K and I was like, that was great for the fitness side of things. You know what I mean? Just to get that little bit of a buzz. But then again, like the pelvic floor things were kind of bothering me. So I kind of put a pin in the running. I was finding it quite disempowering, to be honest. Like I just was like, I need to sort this first. But I was also aware that because my pelvic floor had deteriorated, I am kind of getting to a point with this in a minute. I will circle back around.
No, I'm enjoying the conversation.
With the pelvic floor, I was like, I've been training like a bodybuilder the past 3 years, a little bit. I'm like, my core strength has gone to shit. I obviously have not been using my core because I'm not doing as much. I'm using machines. I'm using a lot more machines. I'm not using barbells as much. I'm not stabilizing myself in the same way that I would. And I was like, I need a change. But also I was getting quite lonely because I work from home and I was training on my own. And yes, I knew loads of people in the gym and you'd say, hey, and you'd have the chats, whatever. But then if you chatted with someone too long, suddenly it's 2 hours later and you're still in the gym. Like, so I was like, I need to be able to be sociable. I need a little bit of variety in my week. So then I was like, all right, I'm going back to CrossFit. And because I used to do CrossFit all the time and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I stopped because I had a lot of accessory work I needed to do. I couldn't really progress any further. I was like, I need to strengthen my back. I need to work on my glutes, my hamstrings, you know, lots of stuff. And I also kind of wanted to train the way I was training other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I kind
I
of
get
wanted
you.
to immerse
Yeah,
myself in what I was doing, and I had a lot to learn. So that's why I left CrossFit and I went and I started training, I suppose, training like a bodybuilder, not
yeah,
living like a bodybuilder, just training like one. So that was kind of how I was training for a long time. So this summer I was like, right, I'm going back to CrossFit. So I've gone back. I'm back with, people that I used to train with years ago, and I'm
yeah,
really enjoying it. I'm like, I'm going at 12 o'clock today and my friend is going, and we'll have great crack, and
yeah,
we're doing a little bit of Olympic weightlifting today, and I'm so shit at it, but it's so fun. And,
yeah,
and then you're doing a WOD at the end, and you're getting your heart rate up and you're challenging yourself. And I love that.
yeah,
Okay. So I've been doing that the past 4 weeks. And then
yeah,
I was like, I'm not working my glutes. I'm not working my hamstrings. I'm like, my back needs a little bit of work. It's all quite, CrossFit's very anterior, I find,
yes,
you
yeah,
know, and
completely.
as women, we tend to be very, for anyone who doesn't know what anterior is, like the front side of your body tends to be
Yeah,
stronger than the back side of your body
yeah,
as a female in general. So I was like, oh, I definitely need to do more. I was like, I can't live like that with the repetitive stuff. So I've decided 2 or 3 CrossFit classes a week,
yeah.
and then 2 accessory strength sessions in the gym. Now I'm lucky that the CrossFit gym and the bodybuilding gym are in the same building, so
Oh,
I can do
that's
both.
very handy.
So I can do both. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to do. And I've actually at the minute, and like when someone's listening to this podcast now in 6 months' time, I'll have changed my routine again, because that's me, because
yeah.
it's what I do. Um,
I
but,
love
um,
that though.
but I'm like,
I
what's
feel
the
like
shame in that? Like, everyone's like,
no,
oh, I can't stick to it. It's like, you can't stick to it because you don't like it. Find a way that you do like it.
yeah,
And at the
yeah,
minute, I'm really enjoying. And so anyway, my point here, right, was that I went and did a leg day for the first time in 4 weeks. It's only been 4 weeks, right? I went and did a leg day. And I mean, even just at the end of it, walking down the stairs, I was crippled. Now, I was
oh my
really
God.
sore yesterday. Today, I'm even more sore. So, like, the DOMs are real. And it was only 40-minute leg session. Like, I just did a bit
Yeah,
of leg extension, leg curl, Bulgarian split squats, abductor, adductor work. That was it.
yeah,
And I swear to God, I was like, I feel like I haven't used my legs in years. It just shows, my point is that intentional work, that slow and controlled movement
yeah,
is so powerful. And it doesn't have to be everything you do. So if the female who enjoys the HIIT classes this is
yes,
where I'm circling it back to. If you enjoy a HIIT
yeah,
class, still do a HIIT class or 2 a week. It's probably where your friends are. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to want to go at 8 p.m. Well, you're not going to want to go by yourself to the gym at 8 p.m. Go and do that. But just add one or two of the intentional sessions in as well. And it's going
yeah,
to like change your life.
yeah. And that is a huge focus, even with myself there, like that it's sociable. Just when you say that, like if something is sociable for exercise, and especially for new mums, it can be really isolating. When you first become a new mum, there's not a lot of things that you can go to. It's hard to find your group, essentially. Like even for myself, I had Jackson, and none of my friends were at the same stage as me. So
Yeah.
I found that quite difficult to meet other mums. Then add in, it was during COVID. We literally could not go anywhere. There was no baby and toddler groups when he was that age. So you need to find something that you do that you enjoy. I don't think there's ever any harm in switching up your exercise routine. When you just say about ADHD, I think we all have a little bit of that. If somebody told me train the exact same for the next 12 months, I personally would probably quit training. Like I just couldn't do that. It has to have some sort of balance in there. So if the fitness classes have your friends and that's a social aspect of it, it's still really beneficial to keep it in. But one session that I do urge clients, even at the minute, that go to fitness classes to include at even at home is the core stability work, that they still do that they're still getting some core work in, they're still connecting their pelvic floor. And generally I'll focus them on glute base, because I'll ask them what is their class like, who are you doing classes with. If I know the person and I know the coach, then I will know their style of training and what they're implementing. If it is now, for example, I have had clients in the past that have maybe postnatal pain conditions, and they also go to a fitness class, I will always ask the client, is it okay if I share this with your coaching person as well? And that they maybe modify this for you to focus on this a little bit more, instead of giving them a whole extra session that maybe they just don't have time for. So,
Yeah.
like, it is very individual. Exercise essentially is another prescription, and is probably the longest prescription that we should take for the rest of our lives to keep us well.
Exactly.
So,
So we have to change it up. We have to keep it
yeah,
fun. We have to
yeah,
be creative. And it doesn't mean that you join a new thing every week or anything, but it's also kind of listening to yourself. And I think, by going to a class, whether it is a yoga
yeah,
class or a fitness class or whatever it is you enjoy, it's about you. It's where you get to be you. And that's it. When I go to CrossFit, like, we were doing handstands yesterday, and I was like,
yes,
it's just like being in a playground. It's like, I know my coach would feel differently. He's like, it's not a fucking playground, Kate. You're just training. But to me, it is, and it's hard
yeah,
work, but I enjoy it. And it's about you, because like when you talk about those mother and baby, meetups or whatever you
yes,
call them, I couldn't stand those things, because
yeah,
now probably I was 23 when I had my first kid. So like you, in the sense that none of my friends were at the same stage really that I was at.
yeah,
So I went to this, like they had this thing called, what was it? Buggy. It was like something buggy
bug,
club.
buggies.
Yeah, buggy buddies. So it was down on the running track, and we did like workouts like with the buggies, and then they all went for coffee afterwards. So I went to like 2 or 3 of these classes back in, like, this would have been 2010, like when
Yeah,
my first was born. But everyone was in their 30s, and I
yeah,
was 23, and all they talked about was their babies and their kids,
yeah, it's
and
difficult.
I remember being like, I don't want to talk to someone about their kids. Like, I want to have friends that talk about that we've got something in common with. You know what I
Yes,
mean? That obviously I had my old friends that I was still friends with, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
in relation to, I was like, so I think what happened to me when I got into fitness, like when I started going to CrossFit, it was like I made all these friends that were into fitness, that were into challenging themselves, and I think that's really important. And then there's also the side of it, like some people have really busy lives and they just want to go and train by themselves. And that's
yes.
okay too. So you, the person listening, know what you need, and that'll change as well.
Yeah. When you mention that, there are a few of my clients have actually said to me so many times that their training is the place that they go for the reduction in noise.
Yeah.
And similar for myself at the moment, like at the minute I train on my own. I used to train even in CrossFit. I used to enjoy classes. Now I feel like maybe it's just the age I'm at with the stage of like a 3-year-old. Like, we have a 3-year-old, we have 2 dogs. One is a Bernese mountain dog, the other one's a pointer. They're so fucking loud every day. I feel like the house in itself is so loud that training for me is that quiet time, that peace. But equally, it's nice when you want that to be more social. You pick your place.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it. And it depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, there's just no fucking escape from them in my house. There's 5 of us and a dog here. Like, and I'm like, I just need to be alone. I just need to,
yeah, I
or
just
sometimes
need peace.
I'd be like, I'll have planned to go to the gym, and I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym. I just want to go for a walk outside where I don't meet another human being. And
Yes.
that's okay too. And I think as we can start to listen to our needs, but what we need to realize, I think, is when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling exhausted, when we're feeling shit, when we're feeling whatever, the answer is moving your body. Like the answer,
Yeah.
unless you're sick, you're injured, or you're genuinely sleep deprived and you need to get into bed, that sluggish feeling, the answer is connecting with your body.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
I think I do agree with that. Equally, now there are times, I suppose, sleep deprivation is something that I come
Oh,
across quite a lot at the moment. And I find that the hardest part for females, especially in the postnatal stage, is actually asking for help
yeah.
and asking for support. And that just reminds me, on your last episode I heard with the sleep consultant, you had mentioned that when you had your first, you used to alternate the nights.
I was
I
so
see.
selfish. I didn't even care
No,
that he had to go to work. I was like, it's your kid too.
see, when I listened to that, I was like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, because it's so important. Like, if you can do that, do it. Do you know, it really does make a difference. Sleep deprivation contributes to a lot of pain complaints, of postnatal even complications, of so many things within your body and your nutritional choices. Big,
But
big,
Julianne, you have no idea how much shit I got from people, opinions I got from people when they found out that, I was on maternity leave, Dave had gone back to work.
yeah,
And they're like, sorry, you make him get up every second night with the baby when he has to go to work. I was like, what the fuck do you think I'm doing at home all day? Like, I'm not
you're not
here painting
sitting
my
there.
nails. Like, yeah, I'm like, but
Not
like,
half your camp.
like my mother used to slag me about it. Like, like people used to, like, they'd say it playfully, but they meant it. And only that Dave was so supportive of me. And he was like, he's my kid too. Like, I don't mind doing it.
Yeah,
I swear, why should you be sleep deprived? But like, I'm so lucky that he was so strong in wanting to do it.
yeah,
Otherwise, it would have been really easy for him to be like, look what everyone's saying. Like, why are you doing
yeah,
this to me? And I think, like, sometimes we hear people like, oh, we put so much pressure on ourselves as women. I don't think so. I think society puts pressure on, like,
society. Yeah,
what do you mean you're making your husband get up to do it? Or what, or, why, like, I think that we really need to be careful what we pass remark on. And
yeah,
there's also nothing wrong if you want to do it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
like, when I'm saying that that's the way I did it, I'm not judging or shaming anyone any women who are like, no, I want my husband to just
yeah,
provide, go out, provide, and I want to do this, and that's okay too. But I think as females, we just need to be really careful that we're not, like, the advice and the remarks that we give to each other. I think.
yeah. The remarks, I think, definitely are a huge thing around pre and postnatal, because you hear so many of them during that phase of motherhood. I feel like nearly more than any other stage, everything has a remark, and I found that during pregnancy. Just when you mentioned that about even exercising during pregnancy, I found a lot of remarks from sometimes from care and places, but equally there are remarks that can make you feel almost scared in your own journey. Because during pregnancy, I continued exercising, I continued strength training, I continued walking, like I continued a lot of impact exercise. And postpartum, as I returned to that as well, the remarks are something that you hear quite a lot. And I think it's on everything. But when you speak about, I suppose, society, the big one, I think that females themselves put themselves under more pressure about is the bounce back and returning to everything so quickly. And I really feel the big culprit of that is actually not other females or anything that you do postpartum. I think the big culprit is that your final checkup as a female is at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think that is what has driven this notion of being back to yourself so much. Like that the 6 week mark, that 6 week checkup is essentially your final checkup about you. You will obviously see your GP or your practice nurse a little bit more around the vaccinations. But for you, unless you flag something, that's kind of, oh, you're good to go now at
Yeah.
this point.
We'll
And
see you again in 4 or 5 years for your smear test.
yeah, it's all just fed into this. Like,
Yeah.
so I think something needs to change around that aspect of things for women, like from a medical point of view. And I suppose in a postnatal stage with myself, a lot of the focus is still very medical. And it's something that I don't share a lot of on my stories or even on my Instagram, because a lot of people don't really need to hear the medical things that I will be looking at. Like there's a lot of medical considerations from a postnatal point of view, and especially if you've had C-sections, if you've had an episiotomy, any tearing, even breastfeeding, breast pain, back pain, pelvic floor prolapse is a big one nowadays. And I think it's just because babies are bigger, but things like that are also medical considerations that you need to be on top of long after 6 weeks. Do you know, they're not going to be after the 6 week mark, oh, I'm good to go. Let's go do everything again. Like it is really difficult stage.
There needs to be a bridge, doesn't there, between the medical and like it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be physio per se. It's just a medical and postnatal strength care, that there needs to be a bridge there. And I know there's lots of women listening that will actively go and find a postnatal coach, or have done,
Yes.
or, you know, then there's women listening that were like me and just didn't know anything, or maybe, you know, it was so many years ago that it didn't exist, or, you know, just wasn't as widely available as now, that it is so important that you kind of bridge that gap between 6 weeks after having a baby and getting yourself to, and I don't like the bouncing back or the getting back to you thing, because you're never getting, like, it's not getting back to anything. Like, you're better than before, you're stronger than before, you're more empowered than before. So like, your body is even better now. Like, you'll have a new strength. If you've birthed a baby, you've got a new strength in you now. And with a guided program, you're going to be stronger than ever.
Yeah, I love that, because it is a huge thing, and females always say they want to get back maybe into a clothes size, into a jean size, back to fitness, back to lifting a certain PB that they had before. But the thing that I've noticed is that obviously postpartum, your body is different, and you actually feel different as well. You want to still hold on to elements of you. And I suppose that comes into what you said, even about your training. You want to get back into fitness, because that's a huge element of you being you. But your body and what it can do, essentially, all I've noticed is that it gets stronger than before. Like, females really do feed into themselves and focus on that element of their health big time. And your reasons for doing it become more and more once you become a parent. And I don't know if that applies to every female, but certainly in my case, pre-pregnancy, I just loved being physically fit. I loved also the aesthetic side of it, because I was in my 20s and I was like, you love to look good as well as feel good. That side of postpartum, I definitely feel, yes, that them goals still really matter, but you do it for multiple reasons. You do it to be physically able to run after your kids, to be functional, so that you age well, that you age better, that you're more independent, and that your life is a higher quality.
Yeah, you, like, your why is so much stronger, and you do, like, the older you get, postpartum or not, I think, like, whether someone has had children or not, I think when you kind of get past the age of 30, 35, depending on the person, and younger, I think, if you've had children, it does become that deeper why. And then there's also nothing wrong in wanting to look good, you know, or wanting to feel good, or wanting to have performance goals. Like, that's totally okay, but you need that, it's the deep rooted meaning behind it. Like, you know, I want to be strong for my kids, I want to be a good example. And I think as well, and you want to nurture yourself. So, like, as females, particularly after we've had kids, we're quite nurturing. Like, we want to look after our children, and I think if we can direct a little bit of that kind of motherly love to our own body.
Ourselves,
and sometimes, like, when I'm training, I see me and my body as two different people, if that makes sense. I'm
don't forget that.
I'm looking after my body that carries me around, and you know, that I've mistreated over the years, and it's still showing up for me, and still hanging in there, you know, and is still getting stronger, you know what I mean? And I'm giving her a little bit of time and attention, just like I have fed my kids, and I've, you know, raised them, and I've brought them to classes, and I've driven them around here and that, and I'm doing, there's always a space there for me to do that nurturing for me too. And so, like, sometimes I would nearly, like, when I'm in the gym and I'm doing, like, training by myself, I'd nearly be talking to myself. I'm like, come on, Kate, you can do this. And I know you don't feel like it today. Like, Jesus, I'd be talking to myself all the time.
That's not an uncommon thing. I think that's great though. And like, when you speak about the external body source, I think that's what can happen when you become a parent as well. And not even intentionally, but sometimes you almost start to view yourself, if you're not looking after yourself in some way, as, oh, I'm just the person who does this for everybody else. I'm the caregiver, I'm the cleaner, I'm the chef. You're not actually feeding into you at all. And it can feel like an outer body experience at times when you do exercise, because you're like, God, this body feels foreign to me because maybe I haven't been putting the time into it for me. I haven't been spending time doing something for me that's not for anybody else. And it's a difficult juggle, I think, nowadays, even more so, because I don't know if you feel something similar to this, but our villages in ways tend to become smaller and smaller. And I don't know if that's a social media thing because we connect more online now with people, but our actual villages of support, even based on a local level, with people having to move further away from where they were raised, maybe for work, for actual housing, the villages are smaller. So your communities are more tight knit. And then the time for you away from your children can become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard to get the balance sometimes.
Yeah.
And mothers could beat themselves up for absolutely everything. And mother guilt over not doing enough across the board for yourself, for everybody else. Mommy guilt just seems to be a thing that crops up now and then for everything.
Let me just say, if you've got mammy guilt, if you're experiencing any type of mother guilt, then you're a good mother, because the bad mothers don't experience the guilt. That's the thing. So, like, we're all human and we're all doing our best. And sometimes we're doing better than other times. And, I think we definitely put too much pressure on ourselves. Before we finish up, I do want to touch on one more topic, if that's okay. Pregnancy. So I feel like we've worked backwards from kind of, years after having children to kind of postnatal and training. And now I want to go back to pregnancy, which is, a lifetime ago for me. No, it's not really.
Yeah. It's not at all.
No. So I would have been pregnant in 2017 was the last time. But to just kind of keep it quick and snappy in relation to pregnancy, because I know what any of the ladies listening who are pregnant or are hoping to become pregnant, what are the do's and don'ts around training?
Especially in pregnancy, that's very personal to each individual. Like, you can purchase generic programs for pregnancy. They may or may not be exactly what you need. The do's and don'ts I would be focusing on is, do incorporate some form of pelvic floor exercise during your pregnancy. You're going to get bigger. You're going to have a bigger bump. And you also need to modify some exercises, primarily moving to, just as you spoke about, isolation exercises, machines that will also give you more core stability, because as you produce a little bit more relaxin within your body, your ligaments are looser. You want to get extra support from alternatives, from physical structures, so from machines, from a base behind you. The impact of exercise and the intensity entirely depends on each individual. Like, the guidelines is no more than 150 minutes of moderate intensity a week. Moderate intensity for some could be Olympic weightlifting in your CrossFit class and skipping the WOD. But for others, moderate could be going for a 35-minute walk. A general rule of thumb that I find really beneficial for females is that if you wear a Fitbit or a smartwatch, you monitor your heart rate so that you keep it between 100 and 140. Now, some women will broach above that and they will be perfectly fine to exercise at a rate above that, but that's very individual. Just on a general base, I say staying below 140 beats per minute in your exercise. Increase your rest times if you need to bring it back down, and continue again. I think from a general point of view, that's where I'd be focusing. And then if complications crop up throughout your pregnancy, just do seek out help and advice on that with regards to exercise. Like, you will have different conditions that recommend bed rest. There's still elements of your nutrition that you can focus on within that, so that I suppose you do gain during pregnancy anyway, but that your weight gain is moderate, that you're not going into at risk of gestational diabetes, and that you stay in a healthy pregnancy zone for yourself.
Yeah. And I think to note as well that if something medical does arise in your pregnancy, go with the doctor's advice. You can watch as many reels as you want, or read as much information on the internet about antenatal, like or pregnancy training, but if you have to go with your specific needs according to what your doctor says, and talk to your doctor about training. And sometimes doctors can be a little bit behind on that. Not all doctors, but sometimes doctors can be a little bit reluctant. Like, so you could always seek a second opinion on from another doctor, but don't go against doctors' orders, particularly.
No, I think that's a huge thing as well. Like, doctors will err on the side of caution for a reason. And if they don't know, they will direct you to somebody that will be able to help you on it.
So to sum up, if someone is already doing something, in general, as long as there's no medical reasons during pregnancy, they can keep it up. If you're a runner, you can continue running, maybe not just try break any records.
Yeah.
And if you're lifting weights, you can continue to lift weights. And then it really is a consideration around the core and the lower back, isn't it? Your core muscles are going to be weaker, which is going to put pressure on your back. So what you're saying is if you're lifting weights, rely a little bit more on machines for pregnancy. If you are in a position, if you're using dumbbells, just don't go too heavy, keep it light, plenty of rest. And don't you get to a certain stage then where it's not ideal to be doing things like twisting and core and,
Not necessarily. I would say it's again entirely dependent on each pregnancy. Some women carry really small. One of the big things would be that you'll still see is lying prone. So when you're completely lying flat, is that an appropriate position? Probably not in your third trimester, but because you're just going to put more pressure on your lungs more than anything. The twisting, the turning, like your basic strength training, you will still be able to continue with this with modifications as you progress. It's not always about going lighter. Sometimes it just can be that you have that extra stability. So as the relaxing increases, that you have extra stability somewhere. So a movement that you may have done previously, for example, could be a walking lunge with dumbbells. You might just switch to a stationary one for that position. You might switch to a cable machine for a kickback as an isolation glute exercise instead of a split squat, because you're just going to be more unstable on your feet. So again, thinking about, I suppose, that you're not going to fall over. Your whole center of gravity is off during pregnancy. So you just want to do anything that would support that in your training.
Like, I suppose, like a Smith machine squat rather than a barbell squat.
Yes, 100%.
Because you back into it a little bit more and your support.
Yeah.
That kind of, and then it allows you to push the weight that you feel you're able to push.
Yeah. And taking them rest times, the heart rate monitor and using your smartwatch is a really good generalist term, because you're not going to push to the point of above 140 in that level. And that can give an overall generalist view. But you will have females, and you'll see them online as well and on Instagram. And you could be sitting watching in your first trimester going, oh my God, I can't do that because I'm so sick. You have to base it on your own self. Like, we all have the best of intentions during pregnancy and even the very beginning of postpartum. But you come first as a person. Like, you still need rest. You still need recovery time. But equally, you're not going to feel any worse for doing exercise, for moving your body, for getting out, socializing with other people, moving. It's going to make a difference.
Yeah, love it. And I think such a perfect way to finish. Julianne, thank you so much for coming and chatting to us today. It's been really, really valuable. If anyone would like to reach out to you, find out more about you and your coaching, is Instagram the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, I would say Instagram is my best place, or my website as well, and it's barbellsandbabies.ie, either or, but you'll see me on Instagram most days.
Instagram your Barbells and Babies as well,
yes,
is it?
Barbells and Babies on there too.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate, for having me. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I would just ask for one thing from you. If at all possible, could you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast? It really does make such a difference. If there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, please do share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it on your stories, tag myself and the guest in your stories. All of these things really do help to grow the podcast. And obviously, if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please do leave a comment. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one.